welcome to this edition of The Inside on Equinoxe Television. I am Bablet Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we're going to be taking a critical look at the terror and bloody twists of the Anglophone crisis. We'll equally be looking at democracy in Cameroon with focus on the presidential and other elections that are expected to be organized in the Republic of Cameroon this year. In some few seconds, discover our guest. Our guest in this edition of the program is a presidential candidate. He was chosen by his comrades to lead the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party at the upcoming presidential election, and that was during the national convention of that political party. Professor MAURICE Kamto, president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for hosting me.
As I earlier indicated, you were chosen by your comrades to be the party's flag bearer at the presidential election. That was during the national convention of the political party, the second national convention of the CRM. We're going to be coming back to that in the later part of the program in greater details. Let's start with the Anglophone crisis, and we're going to be looking at the terror and bloody twists of the crisis affecting the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and by extension the entire nation. And I want to indicate that at the creation of your political party, you wrote about this crisis in your vision even before it escalated about 2 years now.
Correct. Since the very beginning, we expressed our concern about what is known as Anglophone problem. And we said there is indeed a problem in the two English-speaking regions of our country, Northwest and Southwest. And we indicated clearly in our vision that the only way to settle the matter is genuine dialogue, inclusive dialogue, involving people and leaders from the regions to bring our heads together to find a long-lasting solution to the issue. Since then, nobody listened to us. And as you know, as usually, the government look elsewhere. Unfortunately, 5 years later, or 4 years later, 2016, the crisis burst out, and we are where we are today.
And apart from looking elsewhere, government, notably some members like the Minister of Territorial Administration, Tanganji Paul, has continued to say that there is no Anglophone problem.
It is really a heartbreak issue, and to listen to such a high-ranking personality in our country saying that is just unbelievable. One could have expected the minister at least to say, let us look into what is going on in the regions. Instead, he said there is no problem. And now he's touring the regions, trying to say he's bringing peace. What peace? To what issue? Because if there is no problem, then we don't have to go and see people. It is very unfortunate in our country that people from the government would like to hold this type of posture. And my hope is that they would not now realize that there is a serious problem in those regions, and that time has come to stop bloodshed. Exactly. Enough is enough.
And you made a very strong statement during the national convention of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement in this slide, in which you indicated that the bloodbath in the two Anglophone regions must stop.
It must stop now.
But at the same time, government has continued to implement military force in these two regions, and there has been a rise in confrontations between armed civilians and defense and security forces. How is it going to stop in this kind of context?
You know, I don't know how a leader, a political leader, a state governing leader can sleep in peace knowing that Cameroonians are shooting on Cameroonians. I cannot sleep in peace knowing that some of my people are hiding in forest over there in Lebialen, Mamfe regions, and so on and so forth, because their homes and villages have been burned down to ashes. I will never sleep in peace knowing that my people are suffering in refugee camps in Nigeria. And that's why I say it must stop now. It's not a game. We cannot play with the sufferings and the fate and the lives of our people. It must stop, and it's for the government to take the necessary step to make sure that that bloodshed stops. We have made proposals, genuine proposals to government, openly and through normal channels. Two proposals, a proposal with two aspects. The first aspect being to send there, the northwest and southwest regions, a peace-building delegation composed of some traditional rulers, credible traditional rulers from all over the country, because it's not an issue for the two regions only. It's a national issue. It's a Cameroonian problem, composed of credible traditional rulers and churches leaders, let's say religious leaders, because although we are a secular state, they have an impact on the populations in churches, in mosques. We should select some of them to bring peace and wipe the tears of our compatriots, of our people, of our brothers and sisters from the regions. After that, the second aspect of our proposals was to set up, to put the framework of a genuine dialogue, inclusive dialogue, including all the leaders, the genuine leaders, the authentic, the legitimate leaders from the Anglophone area. I have said, if they don't know how to organize such a dialogue, if they don't know who they will pick up to be part of dialogue, let them involve me. I'm serious. I'm really committed.
Mr.
As a
President,
Cameroonian. Yes.
When you're talking about the genuine leaders, as far as the Anglophone regions are concerned, who are you referring to? I'm
thinking of people like MP Honorable Joseph Wilba. There is no way you can settle this matter without involving leaders like him, because he was the one bringing the issue in the National Assembly, in the Parliament, which is still the proper place for that issue to be discussed. Instead, they push him, and unfortunately, he was forced to hide for some time because maybe his own life was at risk. So I'm thinking of people like him, but you also have people like Barrister Congo Felix Agbombala. You also have people like Professor Simon Munzu, you know, his Lord Justice Ayapol, and frankly speaking, I think that we should also think of some of those who are claiming to be secessionists. Although I don't believe in secession as a solution to the Anglophone crisis, we will fight bitterly, as far as we are concerned in CRM, against any attempt to split our country, to bring partition to our country. Having said that, I think that we should organize an inclusive dialogue, because if you push some of them aside, you will say the matter is settled, but it is not. So let us bring them to the table of dialogue and listen to them and know exactly what they are claiming, and then we will find a genuine solution to all. But many of these people you're citing seem to have lost the confidence of the people, considering that when you look at what is happening now in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, it is clear that the secessionists have taken the upper hand, and the people are now listening to these secessionists, notably the Sisiku, Ayuk Tabe, and others who are now in jail. Yes, but should they not be invited to the dialogue table as well? That's what I'm saying precisely. I said you should invite them, because jailing them will not solve the problem. You will jail them, you can even kill them, and new Tabe Ayuk will rise up, will come out. So to settle such a matter, you need to bring all the components, all the stakeholders around a table of dialogue and listen to them. It is not because they are claiming the partition of Cameroon that they will grant that, you will grant that to them. It is not because people are asking for decentralization, or federalism, but it is only through a genuine dialogue. I always say that, I used to say that we have intelligent, talented people in Cameroon, and if we bring our talents together and our hearts together, I'm convinced that we'll come out with a genuine, long-lasting solution to that issue. And the problem now is that the current leadership is not willing to settle the matter, and that is the problem. And my appeal to my fellow compatriots from the two regions concerned is that let us get rid of a poor leadership, of a poor governance of our country, and come as a family, sit down and settle our problem. We are all Cameroonians, and I know for sure that many, if not all, of those who are fighting today are Cameroonian patriots. They are ready to come to the table of dialogue and give a bright future to their country.
We'll certainly be coming back to that in greater details in the later part of the program, talking about getting rid of the present leadership. That is probably through the ballot box.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
But this call for a dialogue has been streaming in since this crisis escalated about 2 years, close to 2 years ago, from political leaders in the country and abroad, from the international organizations and so on. And even the President of the Republic has talked about dialogue on a number of occasions, but this seems not to be yielding any fruits, because there is dialogue, that is, there's call for dialogue, and there's implementation of military solution on the ground. Yeah. What explains this confusion?
It is very unfortunate, and it's exactly what I'm saying, that I see no will to really solve the problem from this government. And that's the problem. Otherwise, how comes that for the past 2 years nothing serious have been, no serious steps have been taken to the direction of organizing a genuine dialogue? You know, they said, oh yes, at the beginning it was a professional matter, you know, concerning lawyers and teachers, but maybe they don't want to see exactly what is going on. And even it was the case, when now people are coming to political issue, will you not settle the matter because at the very beginning it was a professional matter? It doesn't make sense. What I'm trying to say is that there is call for dialogue from all over the country and from abroad. But the current government has shown that it is not concerned by dialogue. It is not really ready to organize a genuine dialogue.
Despite the fact that the crisis is taking terror and bloody twist with thousands of persons who
that's the problem, dead. And no one can understand why they are behaving the way they are behaving. It is like they want to, you know, to put chaos in part of the country to make sure that it will help them win the coming elections, or they will take advantage of that to say that we cannot organize the elections because there is no peace or security in those regions. But in any case, we have been clear, we have been very vocal on that. If they want to take advantage from that to organize a slippery of the date of election, we will fight against that, because there is no way we can miss the opportunity to go to the election this year, to give Cameroonians a chance to express themselves, their anger, their disagreement. And this also an occasion for me to launch an appeal to my brothers and sisters from Northwest and Southwest to go and register and go vote comes the day of elections, to express your disagreement with this government, to express your anger, to tell them that we cannot continue the way we are continuing. Not only that, we should stop killings in these two parts of the two regions of our country, but we should build up the villages that have been burned down. We should help people start new business, new lives. Make sure that our people, our children go back to school after 2 blank years, academic years. So this is my commitment, and I've put it as a #1 issue on my agenda. Should the Cameroonians give me the honor and privilege to serve them as the next president of this country, it will be on top of my agenda.
Right, and Earlier on, you indicated that the people that government has been sending so far to these regions to try to negotiate, to try to talk to the people, to try to preach the message of peace, are not the right persons. But many will be asking the question, where is the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, the CRM political party, in the midst of this crisis?
Since the very beginning, we have been trying our best. First of all, we tried to get in touch, in contact with some of the leaders, to talk to them, to know exactly what are their expectations. And we talked to them. We even at the very beginning of the crisis convey their sentiments to the government through the appropriate channels to make sure that they know the feelings of those who were claiming the reforms of judicial system, of the education system, and at large the reform of the state, the form of our state itself. But nothing happened. And then we launched an appeal and we made proposals to the government, because at the end of the day, if I go there and meet people and we agreed on something, I cannot implement it only because I'm not the government. I don't have the majority in the parliament. I'm not the executive. So unless I receive a mandate from the government to go there and talk to people and bring the result for them to implement it, it will be useless to pretend that I can go there and settle the matter by myself. That's why I say, if you give me the opportunity to serve you, Cameroonian people, Cameroonian from the northwest and the southwest, believe me, we will settle the matter within the 3 months, the maximum, from the very day I come to power.
But Mr. President, besides the Social Democratic Front, which is the main opposition political party in the country that has been on the field in the northwest and in the southwest region since this crisis started, you are one of the major and rising opposition political parties in this country. Don't you think that if the president of the CRM political party and other top officials of the party are on the ground in these regions, talking to the people, is it not going to make an impact?
We are on the ground. Whether I myself has gone there is another issue. But I was, for instance, in the north, in Limbe and in Boya. In Boya first, some 3 weeks ago, and in Limbe some 10 days ago, to talk to people. I've met some of them. There is no need to call their names here, to talk to them. It was not a political rally. It was not a political meeting. I want to touch people, to talk to them, to know what is their mindset now and where we can move, in what direction we can move rightly to bring a solution to the current problem. I intend to go to the northwest, but although I was not in the northwest these days myself, remember that I held a meeting, a very successful meeting in Bamenda on the 25th of June 2016. Since then, our comrades are in the field. Our Secretary General is from the northwest, is Barrister Don Christopher from whom, and he's been all this time in the field. Our the leaders, the leader of the women wing of our political party is Barrister Mispa Awasum. She's in the field, and for now she's still the regional secretary for our party in Northwest. She's in the field. They are preparing our trip there. I will go there, not necessary to hold a very large meeting, because many people are looking for meetings. Being efficient is not only through meetings, popular meetings. It is also to touch upon the leaders, talk to them, go to traditional rulers, talk to them, and know exactly what are their expectations and how can we move in the right direction. It's what we are doing. We are not folding our hands and look at people dying and doing nothing. You will see me in the field in the coming days. One of the important issue on our agenda was to complete our convention and to make sure that we have appointed our candidate for the coming presidential elections before we start going in the field. In the coming days, we will be seeing us in the field, including in the 2 regions.
Now, I'll equally put this question to you. The President of the Republic indicated that before the organization of these elections, apart from the senatorial election that does not concern the masses, because those who are voting are the municipal councillors, before the elections like the presidential, the legislative, and the municipal election that concern directly the masses, he was going to make sure that things return to normalcy in these 2 Anglophone regions. How should he go about this? What should government do at this point in time that the crisis has taken a terror and bloody twist in order to ensure that elections are effectively organized in this country?
We are armless. We are armless. Looking at what the government, the very government who made such a declaration, is doing. You know, since the statement of the head of state saying that he will put in place decentralization, many people were hoping that he will organize the regional election and put in place regions before even organizing the senatorial elections, but that did not happen, and we wonder why. And yet we are looking forward to hearing from the government on any serious solution for the settling of the matter in both regions, but nothing has been said or done till now. So that's why in the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, our conviction is that we can only find a serious solution to that matter through the coming election. Change the leadership, give opportunity to a new leadership in this country to bring Cameroonians together, and we will settle the matter. It's not too late. After all, we have been expecting something from the government since the past 2 years, and nothing happened. We are now 6 months before the coming elections, of 6 or 5 months. It means that we can still be patient, if I may say so. If unfortunately there were not so many lives, lost every day, and too much bloodshed. But after, the message I'm trying to convey is that if in October 2018, we give a new chance to our country with a new leadership, I'm sure that will settle the matter once for all.
Now, you're talking about change through the ballot box,
yes.
But some political leaders think that elections cannot hold in this context, and so the only solution is a political transition without elections. Cameroonians should seize power.
How do you get that transition? You can only get transition if the current government or institution are not functioning, are not there. But if they are still there, it means that you will go and beg a transition from them. How can you expect that? How can that happen? The very people who want to stick in power, and you will go and beg them to give you a transition. I don't know how you reach there. That's why our conviction is that you can only have change in this country through elections, through ballot box.
All right, Mr. President, we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll discuss that in greater detail. It's time for us to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. The press review with Smart Jigangebre.
The Anglophone crisis covered front pages of most newspapers alongside appointments of senators by the President of the Republic and the ghastly car crash in Ombe that took away 5 lives. On the Anglophone crisis, The Voice captioned, "Blood flows in Comland as soldiers shoot any young man." This is coming at a time that the prosecution wants death penalty for Mancho and others. The Post newspaper on its part reported that Ambazonian forces ordered government officials to leave Boya, and the military court plays hide and seek with Mancho's trial. The median, seemingly disturbed with the ongoing crisis, is asking questions. Is the bloodshed and devastation not too much? Who benefits from the bloody and costly war, and who bears the brunt for killing and destruction? The Sun newspaper in one of its publications said Army Chief of Staff's convoy attacked in the southwest, causing him to retreat from his journey. The same newspaper quoted the Army Chief saying, "You are safe in the hands of the military." This was after his visit in the northwest and southwest regions. The Star newspaper says after visit to camp in Nigeria, United Nations bemoans the state of Cameroonian refugees. On the appointment of senators, the Horizon captioned "Democracy under siege as only CPDM emerges with a parliamentary group." Even newspaper says Biya denies Mfon Mukete retirement, while the Post tells us Biya makes mockery of Cameroon's advanced democracy as the upper house is now reverted to one-party affair. The median terms Biya as the master dribbler as he appoints UPC senator from Lebialem, and the Sun says the CPDM to lord it over new senate with only group. The poor state of our road network was also brought to the limelight, with the Post announcing that 3 Boya Council workers and others perish in car crash. The Sun says Mayor Ekema loses 2 brothers in ghastly car crash, while the Eden captioned it as a Black Sunday at Ombe Bridge. In one of its publications, the Guardian Post, worried about the aging government, asked if Biya's romance with the aging is a punishment or a compensation. The Rambler comes back to the fake certificate saga of Ekema Patrick and reported that Mayor seeks legal protection, while the Guardian Post backed up this story by saying court orders UB to stop Ekema's certificate withdrawal process and also warns UB authorities against holding any meeting, making any public statement on the matter. Meanwhile, the Post Weekender indicated that Constitutional Council member Professor Nkwi says he will serve the people and not Paul Biya. He goes ahead to give reasons for his resignation from partisan politics.
Welcome back. That was the press review by Smart Njikan Gabriel, and this year there are 4 other elections after the senatorial elections that are expected to be organized in the country. That is the presidential election, the legislative, the municipal, and perhaps the regional elections. And I guess is a presidential candidate, Professor MAURICE Kamto, National President of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party. You're looking forward to unseat President Paul Biya and take over power. How do you intend to do that in this context?
I rely on Cameroonian people. That is our strength, because we believe in our people. That is why since the beginning of this program I have been launching appeal not only to my fellow compatriots, to my brothers and sisters from the northwest and southwest, but also to all Cameroonians to realize that the government of a country is something which concern each and every citizen, and they should express their will receive them.
About free, fair and transparent
election,
yes,
because it is the only way to change, to bring change in Cameroon peacefully, because we have been advocating for a peaceful change, and you can get there only through elections and through ballot box.
And that is exactly why I was asking you, how do you intend to do this, to take over power in this present context? Context referring to a limping democracy, according to what you political leaders are saying, that democracy in Cameroon today is a limping dog, so to speak, characterized by fraud and all what we can describe as far as democracy, free, fair, transparent elections in this country is concerned.
September 2013, we made the assessment of our current electoral code, and we can see some or many loopholes and shortcomings. And we made proposals to the government, first of all through our MP in the parliament, but they didn't even consider that proposal bill in clear violation of their bylaws. But despite the fact that they overlooked our proposals, we move on, sensitizing Cameroonians on those loopholes. And believe me, we have come to realize that the first weakness of the opposition in the past was not to be able to put election invigilators and give room to the current ruling political party to fraud the much they could. That's why our first commitment is to put invigilators or observers in all polling stations during the coming elections. That's the first point. The second is that we have realized that the electoral cards that has not been withdrawn by the alleged owners or those who have been registered are used during the election day, the electoral day, for people from that ruling party it is forbidden during that period to move from one city to another, but they will do so. And we have that experience during the 2013 elections. And we have decided to stop that. The third element is that they used to put polling station in barracks, chiefdoms, and so for private property, private compounds, to say so. And we have taken the decision to warn the government that should that happen during the next elections, we'll fight bitterly against that, because we are on the side of the law. If the government cannot make sure that the law is respected, then we'll help the government doing so.
Your illegal mine.
Yes, that's it. So these are just to quote some few elements that decided us to take the decision to go to elections, because if you wait until you have a very good electoral code which will guarantee free and fair elections in this country, will never have it, because they know that it is their only way to survive as a government, to maintain themselves in the government. So they will not accept that. They know perfectly well. And we will use that very electoral code to beat them. And that's why we are counting on the full mobilization of our people to go and register massively, to go and vote and control their vote, because it is only from there that we'll have the victory. Remember that bring the results.
And for the people to be mobilized in their numbers massively, as you indicated, to vote for a candidate, they need to be convinced. They need to be sure that this is going to be a good leader.
Yeah.
So what are you telling them?
Give me this opportunity to elaborate a little on our program. Our program is composed of 5 pillars. We want to reform or revise the Constitution. Modifications will be on, first of all, the duration to modification would apply after the first mandate of 7 years. Then if, for instance, it is 5 years, that after the first term, then the second term will be 5 years. We will discuss that. But for now, the key issue and the principle is that the limitation of the numbers of the mandate of the position of the President of the Republic in our country. The second is the 2 rounds presidential elections. Because there is no way. Look at, now a presidential candidate can win the election with 15%, 10, 20%, 25%. Remember that in 1992, the current president won the election with 39%, meaning that 39% of the voters, not of the Cameroonians, chose him as the president. We think that we need more legitimacy for a president to rule the country and to make sure that he has the support of all Cameroonians. See, the third point is to bring down the electoral age from 20 to 18, because there is no reason why a young Cameroonian of 18 years can be jailed at 18 when he is liable and cannot be considered as mature enough to choose his leader at 18. So that's why we think it is right time now to bring the electoral age from 20 to 18. And we'll try to review and to have a more balanced relationship between the head of state and the prime minister. A prime minister, head of government, so to speak, because this is how they call him. Is he really the head of government in our country nowadays? We want to make him a full head of the government with powers. The president will conceive the policy of the nation, and the head of the government will be in charge of the implementation of that policy, with the full power to really implement it. And that's how we see the executive, for instance. We look at the judiciary and not just to reform it in a cosmetic way, to put the English judicial heritage in our judicial system, but to make sure that if need be, we'll have a common law system in the 2 Anglophone regions, if that is the will of the people from that region, or if that is not the will, if they want a united and single system, to make sure that we take the maximum of good practices from that experience of common law to the national system will build up with all Cameroonians. Political aspect is to build up the living together. The country is too much divided. Not only tribalism is flourishing, but also that issue of Anglophone. So we want to calm down, to cool down our people, and to bring peace back, and to make sure that as one single people we build a bright future, because we have a bright future ahead of us, provided that we settle all the matters.
And I was going to ask you, Mr. President, I was going to ask you, the people who are in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon would want to know how will Professor Maurice Kamto, his collaborators, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, settle this problem, this Anglophone problem, from its root. We're talking about marginalization, we're talking about non-respect respect of the Constitution. We're talking about several issues like this. So in practical terms, what are the solutions that you're proposing to this problem?
Part of the solution, if not the core of the solution, will come out from the dialogue. But let me tell you my own appraisal of the issue. I think that what our people from the Northwest and Southwest are looking for, it's, more autonomy in the ruling and in the management of their own affairs. And indeed, it is all the regions of Cameroon who are looking for that. And that I agree with them, that we should have a country with more autonomy. There is no need for somebody who is living in Yumajok or in Nwa or in Yang to come to Yaoundé to resolve a simple matter that could have been settled in Bamenda or in Boya. So they need more autonomy, large autonomy. I'm ready to, if I'm in position of a president of the republic, yes, to admit that I want a country with large autonomy to the regions. If we apply that to all the 10 regions of the country, the specificity of the 2 regions should be taken into consideration. And that's why one of my idea to have a special status for Northwest and Southwest region, to take into account their specificity, their historical specificity, their historical heritage from the English rule. And whether we call the form of state regionalism or federalism will be a matter to be settled during the dialogue. That's why I used to say I cannot take a stand on the appellation, on how do you label it. It is for the dialogue to come out with that. The most important is the content. Let us agree on the content, and we'll decide whether we call it regionalism or decentralization. I would like to add up that if you take some countries, they will say it is regionalism. But when you look into the practical functioning of that regionalism, you will realize that it is even beyond the federalism. You go to Spain, for instance, you will see that when we are, I'm sure you are aware of what is going on in Catalonia. They are more than a federal state. They have a regional government, they have a regional parliament. In fact, they want independence now just because of taxation. They want more taxes to be left to the regional government instead of going to the federal government. Otherwise, they are fully autonomous. So we can have a large autonomy in Cameroon and still use the term of regionalism. So we should not stick on the appellation. We absolutely want to call it federalism. We want regionalism. We'll discuss all that in the framework of the dialogue. I'm sure we'll come out with something acceptable for all Cameroonians.
And at the end of the day, the people are expecting that they will be able to have justice in this country. They will be able to have food on their table. They will be able to travel from one part of the country to the other without going through a nightmare and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. You look at the infrastructure. Look at how between Mbuda and Bamenda, it is just unbelievable, unpracticable in our country in 2018 that you cannot easily go from Bamenda to next door Mbuda, not to talk to Bafoussam and to Yaoundé. It is something unbelievable in such a rich country. So we have something to do. Anglophone Cameroonians are full Cameroonians. They are not second-class Cameroonians. They are patriots. The country is where, in terms of nation building, thanks to their contribution. So there is nobody in this country should let them have the feeling that they are second-class Cameroonians. And believe me, under our leadership, that will never happen again. And one of the key elements I want to introduce tomorrow is that there will be no civil servant of the state of this country somebody who will be a civil servant who cannot speak English.
No,
or French.
No.
So we were talking of infrastructure. Can I elaborate a little bit more on that?
Go ahead,
Look at our proposals or our vision and program on infrastructure is, first of all, make sure that power is available to all Cameroonians. There is no way you can talk of a nation which is independent since 1960-61. And yet there are corners, many areas of our country with no power, with no clean water. So we'll make sure that stop. We want to make power available because you cannot develop your economy, your industry without power. And we want a combined approach of power, not only hydraulic power, but also photovoltaic power, meaning using solar power and using wind power, because our country can provide this type of electricity or power to not only to our industry but to our people. We want to emphasize on agriculture, and you can succeed in agriculture provided you put in place 3 pillars. The first one is to settle the matter of the land matter, the land problem, to make sure that if you have a piece of land and you start your agriculture, people will not come out and chase you because they say, okay, it is not your land, and so on and so forth. We want to organize a national meeting with traditional rulers and other elites to make sure that we come out with a solution on how to use our land properly. The second pillar to succeed in agriculture is settle the issue of seeds. You know, they will say that they will want to increase the production of maize or cocoa in Cameroon, but the farmers will go out and will not find the seeds. We want to set up a national body in charge of producing and making available seeds to farmers. The third one is fertilizers, to make sure that fertilizers is available. But we want to combine fertilizers where need be, and biologic agriculture, because we have a market, an international market for that. And you can only expand our agriculture if you mechanize them. And the mechanization of the agriculture is not only buying big tractors. You start with simple mechanization. If you have 2 horses or 2 cows with a saw, you will help farmers.
All right, Mr. President, we're going to take interviews of the week, and we'll be right back in a moment.
We are equally afraid because Edziki Tumbanga is a stone throw, so it can equally extend Tumbanga if care is not taken.
We came to provide some help, some aid for our citizens from the Meme division that are here in Banga. The complaints, it's true they cannot be taken care of as if they are at home, but at least for the moment it is very encouraging, and we hope it will be the same until they return home, whenever there will be peace at Edziki.
In the southwest region, classes are going on normally in most of our institutions, especially those at areas that are not affected by the trouble that we have. The areas that are affected, classes are not going on there.
In Yaoundé, some schools have done their best to try to expand and taking all the students who have come from the northwest and the southwest.
I'm called Sejang Ogwendum Elvis. As people can see, I'm from the presidential guard. We were well trained in a such way that we can know how to intervene in some improvised explosive devices. We are prepared or fit to fight against any improvised devices that is being placed anywhere. We can detect them, define them, and we treat them. We even destroy them.
We were called for a fire incident in the central market here in Douala. After the intervention, we have an account of 12 stores that were burnt, 10 of which are totally burnt down and 2 others partially burnt.
The small and medium-sized enterprise are facing problems all over the world, and every country has its specificities in these problems. If you don't have good prepared projects, if you don't have, we call it bankable projects, it will be difficult for you to raise capital, to raise loan. So you do have these 2 key problems of
having good projects and being able to raise equity. This is, investor fund, and also have loan. You have to deal with both challenges, to have a strong company.
We are very proud to see that a private organization, what we call usually the patronat, is now tackling the issue of those problems by helping the state to solve problems of competitiveness of enterprise. And we came to launch the very first development center of SMEs in Cameroon.
This is, a progress in terms of economic model of organization for private sector, because they are trying to solve problems themselves. Equity funding, this is a particular services which we need to see how, they will happen. And after that, to help a company to build a business plan and also to structure bankable projects.
The President said during the closing of the session that for a telephone company like Orange, for instance, all journalists who already have their cards have a reduction for some complete free calls. Any product you want to buy from Orange Cameroon, be it a modem, be it a telephone, you have a reduction. And recently we equally got into a partnership with SN Brussels for flights. Everybody with a press card has a 15% reduction for every flight they are taking from SN Brussels.
Mr. President, one question or a question mark hangs on all what you have said here. Your program, your vision, your personality. Some will be asking, he was a member of this regime. Is he going to be different? Have you separated yourself completely from your roots in the present regime, Mr. President?
I've been a member of this government as Minister Delegate to the Ministry of Justice. And there is no, I will not shy away from that. And there is no reason why I should be shameful because I was a member of the government of my country. I have always said that my own opinion on my appointment, I didn't ask for, and I have never asked for any appointment, whether as a dean of the faculty, where I was dean of the Faculty of Law and Political Science of University of Yaoundé for 6 years before I was appointed in the government. I didn't ask for, I didn't neither ask for the appointment as a minister delegate. But my own opinion is that I think I was appointed minister delegate because I was in charge of an important part of the file for the settlement of Bakassi issue, as you know. And in that time, my opponent, my counterpart, from Nigeria was the Attorney General, Minister of Justice of Nigeria. And I was then the Dean of the faculty. So it was unbalanced. And so Nigeria could take a commitment through his minister, and should Cameroon take the commitment only through Dean of the faculty. This is my own analysis of the reason why, probably. I don't know the real reason, because I didn't discuss that with the President of the Republic, neither with the Prime Minister or head of government. But I assume that it is the reason why they appointed me as the minister delegate to the Ministry of Justice. But I did my best, not only on that, on handling that file, but in my position in the Ministry of Justice. Should I make, the evaluation of what I did there, I think there will be no reason for me to be shameful. Let me just.
But you were a member of this regime, which you say today that has failed the country, yes, that has failed in its duties, that has brought Cameroon to its knees, yeah. And today you're coming like the Messiah. Have you separated yourself from your roots in this regime?
That is your word. I've never considered myself a messiah. I've never used that word. I would never use that word because it's blasphemy to use that word. If you are a Christian.
No, when I'm talking about
I'll go back.
I'm referring to that figure who wants to take over power, who wants to save the country from economic hardship, from social problems, from political problems. That is what I'm referring to as Messiah, in quotes, not in the Christian context per se.
Yes, but
have you separated yourself from your roots?
Have you seen any link between me and that government? Have you ever seen, even when I was the minister delegate in the Ministry of Justice, any link, political link between me and that government? I have never been a member of CPDM. I have never been a member of any political party before Cameroon Renaissance Movement. In 1992, I supported the candidature of Nijon Frundi as a leader of SDF, but then as the leader of what they called Union pour le Changement. I supported his candidature. I was not a member of SDF. I've never been a member of SDF. I've never been a member of any political party. I've never been, and I think that even the Deputy Secretary General of the CPDM said in future elections. And he's never been a member of CPDM. So I don't see why you should say I should separate myself, I should cut it. I have never had any link, political link with them. I've been appointed in the government in the circumstances I've just described to you, in the context I've described to you, and have discharged my duty as a Cameroonian, proud of serving my country, is in a particular position. Afterwards, after I've had the sense that I've completed my assignment successfully, I've resigned. Nobody kicked me out of the government. Cameroonian, ready to bring its contribution based on the will of Cameroonians to bring a change to their lives, to bring my full contribution to that change.
Mr. President, your last word to Cameroonians who are listening to you now.
My last word, first of all, is that we want a peaceful change in Cameroon through elections, and that can happen only if Cameroonians go and register massively in numbers. Go and vote comes the day, and make sure that they control their votes to avoid any cheatings, so that the person, whether a lady or a man, who will be proclaimed the next president of this country after October 2018, is the choice of Cameroonian.
Professor Maurice Kamto, National President of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party and flag bearer of the party at the presidential election expected to be organized this year in the Republic of Cameroon. Thanks for accepting to be a guest in this edition of the program.
Thank you very much for hosting me.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us in this edition of the program. Take the appointment for another edition next Sunday.